Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser.
And I am Johnny B.
And I'm Medieval Warrior.
But together we are
Modeling
for Advantage.
Well, good evening, one and all. 12 people in the chat already. Beautiful. Catch up. We've got Rosie Raccoon here. Josh Wood just popping by to say he can't stay. Oh, we'll catch you in the rerun, mate. Shadow Wolf Gaming, nice to see you. Who we got there? The Head Rat. I love that name. What are you painting tonight? 15mm German armor. I do like painting 15mm tanks, you know, because they're that nice blend between vehicles are quite quick, so you don't have to do too much, but you feel that you've done a good job usually with them. It's probably me wanting easier stuff, isn't it? There's Paul Parker. Not Jay's here. Good evening, mate. I'm gonna have to carefully read this one. Ego 9 is that? Hello there. And Gary Saffon 69. Right. Well, that's us caught up with the chat. Hobby wise, I continue to try and get some more paint on this. There's a course of bricks down the bottom here, which I'm going to try and paint black tonight. This is from one of those Sarissa Precision. It came with one of the epic Napoleonic infantry. What about you, John? You got any hobbying on?
House. I've got a bit of hobbying on. You got me these some time ago. These are some of the footsore, is it? Footsore miniatures, Roman civilians.
Oh, for our SPQR game.
Yeah, these are just going to be loitering around in camp, you know.
Yes.
Doing things. As soon as we get there. Nick, have you got any hobby on the table?
No, because I just flew from one city to another today, so I have everything packed. But I'm painting some, so I'm painting some 15mm Khorasan miniatures. I'm trying to finish them so I can complete my 15mm.
Right. Well, you're going to show us lots of pretty pictures later to make up there, right?
Sure, sure. Of course, I have from my armies some pictures you can see.
But before we hear too much of that smooth, sweet, sexy voice, could you tell our beautiful viewers at home who you are and where they can find you? Because you're on YouTube, sir.
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel called the Medieval Warrior Wargaming. I started it a few years ago. Obviously, I'm interested in medieval wargaming and especially 100 Years' War, as you know, guys. You're following me. I'm obsessed with the period. That's why I don't do anything else. I can imagine my channel is a bit boring, but that's what I like, so that's what I show. You know what I mean? I love the period.
You have a passion for it.
Yeah, I got a great passion for it. I mean, I got it from when I was studying here in UK. So it was, I was reading for the Black Prince and Edward III and all these great characters and slowly learning about the great battles. I started with 15mm and I have some crusades. Also, I like crusades. I mean, I have some extended medieval armies for my 15mm. But then when I moved to 28mm, I focused totally in 100 Years' War. Early period and later period. So yes, my channel is based on this period. I'm trying to give variety by, doing some biographies of characters of the period using miniatures, some historical battles that guys narrate, other channels narrate for me, again, using miniatures. And I'm trying to give a variety, but I'm focused in this period, yeah.
Yeah, I quite like it, the fact that you do all of that. Saw one recently of one of the battles, and it was beautiful to watch. You got these beautifully painted armies just rolling around on the field. I can't remember what the battle was, but it was one of your most recent battle reports. And as you say, there's such a varied on there. You're doing rules, different rule systems. You've got all these different battles, these sort of personalities that you're discussing. Go check it out, guys. Medieval Warrior, if you haven't already.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like when you started doing those biographies, you've created like little unit cards for the famous commanders, haven't you? Oh, I think Nick might have frozen.
Oh no!
Oh
no, he's back.
Okay.
Hello, Nick. You just froze up there for a moment. So yeah, it's in maybe
Oh, sorry, guys. Yeah.
You started making unit cards. Oh.
Yeah, I created some unit cards and create unit cards for. I think I have them here. Let me check 1 second if I can show you. I usually, it helps me with my rules, and sometimes it makes the table look better. Depending on rules I play, I create some battle cards. It helps me remember sometimes, and sometimes it looks good and it helps. Let me show you. For example, here I have one unit card I can show you.
I mean, we've definitely found with the narrative games we've been playing with SPQR, for example, just giving the generals a name from one battle to the next really helps with immersion.
Like this.
Oh, apologies, folks.
Hotel Wi-Fi letting us down.
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, look at that. We've got it on screen at least. English Dismounted Knights. Oosh. Couldn't tell you for what system, but it's beautiful.
Can you hear me, guys?
At the moment,
now we can.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is for a rule set I purchased recently, and I'm reading and I'm enjoying. It's an old rule set. I was not aware that it existed, called Days of Knights. I saw it from a Little Wars TV. They were doing a review. So what I usually do is I make these units cards, these components I find around the internet, and some photographs I take from my armies, and I just put the basic attributes, movement, combat factors, depending on the rule set, obviously. And I use them for my games. It helps me. I don't have to check the rules every 5 minutes, and it also looks good sometimes on the table.
I think that look great. You could sell them. They look professional.
Actually, to tell you the truth, because I did something like this for my Sword Point games, Grim and Beast came back to me and they asked if they could purchase them.
Right. There you go.
Yeah. So it's fun. You find all these components in the internet. You just PowerPoint, take photos of your armies, take photos of your units, and you can create battle cards for any rule set. Just you put there whatever attributes or whatever important rules you need for every set. I mean, you can do it. I did it for a friend of mine for Napoleonic. I think it was Black Panther. I mean, you can do it with any type of era. It doesn't have to be and these are my armies. But I can imagine with any rules that you can do something similar.
Indeed. Anything you like.
Very nice. I'm just can't catch up with the chat. So, Nick, we do keep losing you. I wonder if you want to try reconnecting while I catch up with the chat. Do you want to try that?
Yeah, sure. Let me give it a shot. Yeah, let me give it a shot. Yeah.
See if it makes a difference. Thank you. Where are we? So, Charles Latora. Hey to all from Gray, California. California is grey? California, we have a vision of California in Britain. It's beautiful and full of oranges, right? Not Jay, 15 mil Romans for a painting challenge for the mother. 15 mil Romans.
Tinies.
Aled is here. Good evening. Rich John is here. Mid-60s. That's in answer to an earlier comment, isn't it?
Well, they're trying to figure out your age.
My age?
Yeah.
Young and beautiful, mate. That's what I keep telling myself.
And beautiful.
I'm significantly younger than you think, and that is a fact. Recently built the Warlock Games wrecked house. Added some rubble and now primed and base coloring. Yeah, the ruined farmhouse or the wrecked house. Because John's just bought the wrecked house, I think. Now I come to think about it. Have you built it yet, John?
This one. It's not the ruin. It's not the ruined hamlets. It's the wrecked house. It's plain Diddy, Mr. Chase. I didn't realise how tiny it was, and so much of it is like, as Kaiser pointed out, I definitely think it's for a scenic, diorama than it is anything else.
It feels like something like from Tamiya for a diorama to go alongside a tank rather than a wargame piece.
Yeah, for sure. He's
They'll-
back. Nick is back.
It looks really
Yeah, I hope
nice.
it's better now.
Hey Nick,
So far, so good.
you haven't got any other houses that are going to look the same that are like on the same street unless you get 10 identical ones of them.
True.
So it wasn't for me. It might work in the is it that firefight, which John nearly missed the show. Yeah, that's my fault. It's been I work in school last week, a term mental. We've all been ill for a couple of weeks as well, which is why you've not seen battle reports come out. I really need this 2 weeks off to recover. I should have advertised this quite a while ago. Greg Finch is here. Very nice. And Todd is here. All Americans joining out. Gamers with Coffee. The Italary kit. Yeah, that's that. So
Yeah,
it's that one that you've got. And Jill Gorham. And what was it? Not Jay's actually doing 10 mil Romans.
Tiny.
Rosie wants to know. She's always looking in the background of people.
Oh, what's on the TV?
On the telly.
Is it the news?
I hope family or something. Let me close it so we won't bother anybody.
Oh, you should leave it on because then we know if you're like frozen or not. Because if the picture's moving, if the picture's moving, then we know we're good.
That might have been what was causing the trouble. It was so dynamic, the TV in the background.
Yeah,
right.
maybe.
Look, Nick is very much as a medieval guy, hence the channel name, and especially the 100 Years' War. And we're going to get into that in some detail. But before we do, if I may, some of you are not interested in this, I realize. But for some people, it's big news. Yesterday, there was a big announcement for from Games Workshop. I got real fizzy about it, sent John a link, and he said, "It's April Fool's Day, you dickhead."
Shut him
So
down.
it's not true. They pull these jokes. But then today they did another announcement. So I'm going to share with you a quick clip from about what's in the pipeline for Warhammer, and some people I hope are quite interested in it.
What? You thought we were joking?
Nice.
Right. So, see if I can get the point about this is that's a real miniature, right? This isn't a joke now. And
Real miniature.
it's a nice miniature, I think. What do you think, John?
Beast, mate. It's a beast. I think, well, it's taken a big step away from what they used to be. And do you know what? That's okay. I'm cool with that. I mean, look at it. Some people have been saying it's got very Tau-esque features upon it. And I can see that. Some embellishments on the gun there. Like it looks like the plasma canister from a Tau battle suit. And the little thing there. It's got a backpack. It's awesome. His head looks like one of the AdMech robots, but without the dome.
Yeah.
It's promising. But we'll see what they make of it.
Because he had a dome helmet on, didn't he? The silhouette looked like a Sontaran. And they're small as well, aren't they? Small and squat. You know, Dr.
So I wonder. But they're not called squats. They're not called squats.
Are they not?
Ooh. No, they're called like the Leagues of Voltron or something.
Right. So one of the things that... So the story was squats have been gone from Warhammer for quite a while. Their home planet was destroyed in one of the books or something, right? Is that right?
I think they just wrote them out because they're not particularly PC.
Well, also I saw an article, or like Wade Price, the guy who does some of their interviews. Yeah, and he was saying it was just the miniature designers. Nobody was really interested in doing them. They didn't feel they had anywhere to go with them. They didn't like the look that they had at the time. They didn't know what to do. So if that was really true, then the whole thing was kind of primed for someone to come along and go, well, I know what to do with them.
Yeah.
and they do look a lot more dangerous. I assume they're calling them this League of Summer because they're coming back from beyond the Imperium, and they're a specific subset of them. Because before they were just part of the Imperial Guard, weren't they?
Yeah, predominantly they were just a human subspecies that was folded into the Imperium. They were a separate thing. They had their own sort of backgrounds. They had their own, halls. They had different families and whatnot. But yeah, predominantly they worked with the Imperial Army and were just really good at monkeying around with technology and fixing stuff and making things. Naturally, standard dwarf stuff,
Yeah, yeah. And one of the Zotes coming back, yeah.
They look nice, very nice.
It's a bit of fun. We'll see what comes of that in the coming months.
Yeah, yeah. And if it's anything like the Sisters of Battle, they were telling us about them 18 months before we got into miniatures.
Yeah.
There could be very, very long lead time on that.
Anyway, enough of that. Learn me up, Nick.
Learn me up. Right. Yeah, Warhammer's that way. So, Nick, you got into wargaming when you were in Britain. You said you were studying over here because obviously they have many fine academies in Greece, but Britain is where all the learning is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
Why did you move over here in the first place, though? Was it
you know what happens usually is because of family being before you. So my cousins were studying here.
Ah, right.
They went there. They were happy, and then I followed. I was a younger cousin. Also, between you and me, the UK has the best schools of architecture in the world. The AA, the Bartlett are considered top in, plus some other schools, obviously in France and in Italy and the States, but the Bartlett of UCL and the Architectural Association is considered from the top in the world. At that time, England was in the extended European Union, so fees were cheaper than they were in America. Obviously, we're paying as European Union. Altogether, close to the country, and one led to another, and I went to UK to study, but there where I got the wargaming bug. I was walking on. I had a break from the university. My university was in Good Street in London, and I was walking Oxford Street one day between. I don't know if it's still this was the 90s. Between Virgin Megastore and HMV, there was a games workshop, a big games workshop store in Oxford Street, and I went there. And I remember I got hooked immediately. I saw the terrain they were building. I saw the painted miniatures. I remember that period. I think the box was Bretonians against Lizardmen.
Right.
Okay, you remember this box?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that was the one. So I saw them and I got enticed. How well they are in selling stuff. They call you to play. They show you how to paint. You see these beautiful miniatures. And I got hooked, and I started with Warhammer, not 40K, with Warhammer. I got some Bretonians, I got some Lizardmen. I painted them crap. They didn't look at all like the ones I saw in Wargaming.
Awesome.
It was terrible. But then that's where I got hooked, and then slowly I started learning about miniatures, about manufacturers. Essex basically was the first that I learned, the oldest one, and fancy. And also learning history. I started reading, I went to the Tower of London. I was reading about the 100 Years' War, about the history of the period. I was traveling around England, and I went to Scotland also, and Wales. I was checking, I went around to see famous castles. So I got hooked. I think, and for me, it was something, it was something exotic, knights in armor, because I can imagine for other people it was exotic to build Greek hoplites. But for me, Greek hoplites was extremely boring because I was listening to them since I was 5 years old and watching and reading. So for me, English and French was exotic, something new. And I was hooked. I was hooked with the 100 Years' War. I really enjoyed it. I started reading about characters. I started reading about, the battles, the history, the campaigns. And for me, it's all together. You know, it's the story and the wargaming and the painting and the characters, and I got hooked for the period. Yeah.
Sweet.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I guess so. Greek boys, when you were growing up, didn't get little packets of plastic knights to play with. Then,
yeah,
for birthdays, you didn't have all that.
No, we got hoplites, so it was a bit
got
boring for
hoplites,
us.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
We got Greek, you know, Spartans and Athenians, and so although we got, you know, Macedonians, Alexander the Great, so you can understand that for me, something that is very exciting to you because it's you know, Greek hoplites and Alexander the Great and the Battle of Marathon and the Battle of Thermopylae. For me, it was something that I'd be reading and
heard this.
Yeah, well, not again. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
So from there, so you mentioned Essex, mate, because they do what are quite small for 15mm nowadays, don't they? I had some of their Napoleonics going back to when the world was black and white and a little bit grainy. I had some of theirs. So you 15mm Essex, 100 Years War stuff.
I started with Essex, 100 Years War. I think at that time, now middle of the end, there were not too many manufacturers. I mean, at least I didn't know many. So it was mostly Essex from 15mm. And then I started building up a bit. But at the beginning, I don't remember maybe I didn't know, but I don't remember I had more than Essex. I think you had for 28mm War Games Foundry. They were quite old miniatures. But for 15mm, I remember the Essex had a decent 100 Years War miniature. I mean, Essex are not the best, obviously. They're old, but they still kind of have character. I like Essex character. I mean, they still are, you know, if you paint them, they don't look bad. You know, the Essex miniatures they have some kind of appeal. And then slowly, when more manufacturers appeared and the hobby grew, I remember I bought Millington, quite good miniatures for 15mm. Then I bought Corvus Belli. That's quite good, very good miniatures. I think they closed and now they opened again through Mortimer Gloriam rules. I think Simon Hall has a collaboration with them and he's releasing them.
I thought they were Plastic Soldier Company, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, Plastic Soldier Company. Yeah, through Mortimer Gloriam. Yeah, you're right. And also Legio Heroica, very beautiful miniatures, but not for the 100 Years War, for Crusades. Another period that I was gaming at the beginning. I started with 15mm, then I moved to 28mm for a long time, and now I have the feeling that I'm going back to 15. I don't know why. Yeah, because circumstances. You know, I'm not living. I'm living abroad. The space is limited when you live on your own. I don't have big war rooms as I have in my own house. As I'm not, as you know, guys, you know me better. I'm not a skirmish player. I don't like skirmish games. I cannot stand them.
Pretty much all we play nowadays.
I have to apologize to the skirmish fans. I cannot stand them. It reminds me of pub rolls. I like to fight big battles. So here I cannot fight big battles with my 28s. It's impossible. I don't have the space. But with the 15mm, with a small table, you can fight very big battles, even with a bigger table. So I'm thinking that I'm going back to the 15s. I'll bring them back from home. I'm painting these Khorasan miniatures now. So I think I will move to this period, to this size again, for a while at least.
So,
and they're cheaper, obviously.
And you played through a lot of different systems. I've seen, I've been following your channel for a couple of years now, and so forth. You did quite a lot of coverage on Sword Point in the past 6 months.
Yeah, I am. As you say, I'm a.
Tell me Sword Point. Why should I play Sword Point?
I'll tell you. I'll give you a general answer before we go to detail, if you don't mind. I am a rule buff. I buy rules like crazy. I like reading them. I like how the authors perceive the period, because I know the period very well. I've been reading it very well. I know the battles very well. So I buy rules in general. When I find something that is medieval, I go and buy it, from Sword and Spear to the strongest, to sword point, okay, Hail Caesar, everybody has. So I buy them and read them. Now I'm just news for you guys. I'm playtesting since 2 months the Claymore rules that will come hopefully next year. Claymore casters are preparing medieval rules, 100 Years War, and I'm currently playtesting. David Imrie and Nikolas, his collaborator, are writing these rules now in the second, let's say in the second draft. So I'm playing testing them and I'm giving them some feedback. So I'm waiting for the next draft now after my feedback. And but I like playtesting rules. I did the same with Sword Point. I was playtesting the 100 Years War.
Right.
Yeah, here I have it. I have it somewhere here. I'll show you.
And so these Claymore, they're going to be a rank and flank game, are they?
Yeah, they're still at the early stages. I mean, they're still, the guy's still working on them. We're trying to give them as much feedback as I can, you know, from my experience. But I think they have. I think they're planning sometime end of this year to release them. So you know, a rule set. I mean, it's an acquired taste. You know, in the Facebook group we have the medieval miniature war games where it's. I put a poll recently. And I wrote, what do you look in a rule set? And I put some, you know, hand-to-hand combat, missile fire, or whatever I could think. And also the members added some other options. By far, the first choice was command and control rules. By far. I mean, it was like a command system. It was more than 55%, 60% of the answers. Then you had hand-to-hand combat. Then you had basing. That's very important. Many people don't want to rebase their miniatures. So a system that is, a system that is universal. But I was surprised, but it was very interesting to see that command and control was top of the list by far.
What is your top one? What's the thing that draws you in? What are you looking for most out of these rule systems?
Yeah, I'll tell you. That's why I'm saying rules are an acquired taste. Although I'm playing Sword Point for the last few couple of years, and before, the rules I've stuck more with were Impetus for 6-7 years. I played also Hail Caesar. I like Hail Caesar. I have my taste is I like very few dice and modifiers. I don't like many dice in my rules. Because in this way, a game, in my opinion, is more strategic. You know what you have against you. You know what I mean? It's more realistic. You know you have the spears who have positive modifiers against the mounted, who cancel the charge bonuses of the mounted. They have a combat factor of plus something, and they have one die roll, 1d10. So in this way, it's more realistic. I don't know if you understand my idea. It's more realistic. You know what you have against you. You don't. It's not like, oh, I have a unit that has 35 dice to roll.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm making myself clear in this one.
Yeah, you're not relying on generals. Don't send. You know, they know what to send against what.
Exactly.
Get the job done. So that's a given. You don't need to roll 35 dice to figure it out. It's just, I see what you mean.
If generals did know that, then Agincourt didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then a million other battles where somebody who was a moron didn't happen. One of the reasons I like a lot of dice is when you recreate historical battles, particularly where the weaker side wins a decisive battle. You try and fight Cannae on a war games table. You try and fight Cressy on a war games table. You try and fight Agincourt on a war games table, and it's never going to happen. You're not going to get anything like the result you got in reality. Because in reality, there are many factors outside of short range +1. and they're really difficult to quantify. Battles are so much more random than war games are ever really able to account for, which for me as an historian, is why I've moved. I prefer my rules as far away from a simulation as possible. Because I don't believe it ever can be a simulation. I don't think you can ever, if you think what you're doing here is recreating the circumstances of a particular battle, you've gravely mistaken. And like trying to do that is a fool's errand. Instead, just remember you're playing Monopoly for grown-ups and enjoy the sixes. But
true, I agree with you. I agree on that. Yeah, I agree with you.
I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. I'm saying that for me.
No. There's no wrong or right. There's no wrong or right. There always should be a chance. That's why, for example, I like rules with the dice of D10. D10 gives you can have few dice and gives more possibility, wide range. But in the other hand, for example, if you fight Agincourt properly, and if you make the French move on mud with minuses and fight on mud, then you can simulate closer to reality. What do you mean? If you try to use weather and all these kind of circumstances, but in general, I like as most of the guys in the group like command rules. I like that an army cannot be controlled. I don't want to be able to move all my units all the time. Without any disadvantages. I like to have problems to think, okay, I have these pips or I have these units in command range and the other ones are out of command range. I like this idea that I cannot control all my army. So this is one thing I like. And also like hand-to-hand combat, I like melee reactions. I don't like the line of battle to be immobile. I want to see melee reaction. Lovely.
Tell me what you mean by melee reaction.
When some rule sets, you have the basis fighting until one is destroyed. And that doesn't actually depict what actually happened in a medieval battlefield. In a medieval battlefield, the English were pushing, the French were pushing, the units were fighting, and suddenly they found themselves isolated and flanked. I like pushbacks. I like melee reactions. I like follow-ups. I don't like a line of battle to be immobile until one unit is destroyed. In this case, you have pushbacks. When you have follow-ups, you have melee reactions, you have new strategic options that appear. When you're just fighting one line until one unit breaks, it's not, in my case, I don't find it appealing.
No, that's true. I think other people prefer it. But real people don't stay there watching their mates get slaughtered. They pull back and they have a think about what they're going to do. Yeah,
exactly. But that was how.
Someone behind him makes a choice. Am I going to move up or am I going to
go? What?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the fight or flight decision right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone goes down, another individual makes that choice. Yeah. I do like in my mass battle games, I do like high level of abstraction. One of the things I've liked about your videos recently, and so Wargaming, we've got chainmail and D&D type early skirmish gaming. All of us that are old enough have had these horrible WRG charts and tables, 18 figures firing at factor 4 does 0.3 of a casualty. John isn't old enough for that. You've been spared that experience, John.
Yeah.
But there'll be many people in the chat that remember that. We've had the abstract systems that kind of came with like crossfire and what am I thinking? Like DBA had a real moment in the sun for a while. It's like, this is really high level abstraction with some basic command and control. But more modern systems have been able to tinker with system a lot more and try and strip out some of the clumsiness of some of those early attempts to have command and control. Biggest, for me, the biggest innovation in wargaming in the past 30 years is mixed turn order. I think it is the thing that we had Stuart McCorkadale on the other week from Great Escape Games, and he was saying in the system that they designed, they want player choice to be at the center of it. It's like you, the commander. It's not what the dice achieve. It's like when I play, I have a choice to make now about what I do. And if you don't know when you're going to be able to move which unit, that makes every time you get to move a unit is a choice as like player agency right there. But you got rank and flank games, so that's a bit more messy, isn't it? You can't mix that up in the same sort of way. So what kind of command and control options do you deal with in those big rank and flank games?
Well, Sword Point has a disadvantage that it has a disadvantage. It has different command and control. You can move your units regardless of the position and the distance. So you move all your units and maneuver them. But you cannot rally your units easily. So the commanders play important role in rallying. If you're not in command range, you cannot rally. If the king is not in command range, you cannot try even to rally at all. So it uses the command and control system during breaks. For Days of Nights, a rule set I'm playing recently and I enjoy. It's an old rule set. I don't think it's something new. I saw it from Little Wars TV. They had for the Battle Management Corps. In Days of Nights, there's a different. They're based there, and I like it. It's something. It's a rule set that I enjoy. I'm playing recently. They're basing their command and control on characters, generals, captains, mercenary captains, marshals. And
divisions within the army.
Yeah, and depending on the level of the character and its power, you can control more units as groups. If you're a captain, you're controlling only one, and if the character is not there, the units can do very basic things, just move forward at any angle but not change direction. So basically, after hand-to-hand combat and when the lines break, you need to use your commanders to fetch the units and reorder the battle. I like this. I like this because after melee creates a lot of options, you have to start running around and trying to regroup your troops, and that's something I liked in the rules. So that's why it was appealing for me.
Yes, well, so in those kind of the high medieval battles in particular, keeping control of your troops is the way to win a battle.
Because not all troops wanted to fight, obviously, and when they fought, then they were trying to, disappear, go if they didn't have a commander or a captain to follow. You know how medieval battles were not, let's say, they were not tactical armies. They were feudal lords would bring their own retinues, and without their lord, most of the units did nothing. So I like this idea of command and control in Days of Nights, that you need all these characters and all these commanders, and commanders from one division cannot control units from the other division. Another very clever rule. So even if you have a captain who is in the vanguard with his retinue, even if you attach him to a unit that is in the main guard, he cannot control it because obviously these people were recruited from another captain. So I like this rule set. I like the way this command works with these generals and captains who really need to reorder the troops, especially after the melee.
Yeah, and to give the battle more than just one clash of spears and result.
Exactly. Yeah. Give something extra. It's a good rule set. Yeah, I enjoy it. I mean, I would say I would recommend it. I mean, it's for 15. I would recommend it 100% for 15 I don't know how it works with 28. I mean, with big battles 28. I don't know if it will take longer because, but with 15 it's I think it works perfectly.
And you like about 15 just the sense of scale. Is that one of the,
Yeah, I like the sense. I mean, I have big armies 28 I have more than. I mean, if you see my armies, I have early 100 Years' War and late 100 Years' War armies. I have more than 3,000 miniatures, maybe 4,000. Wow. So yeah, around 2,000 per army. But
and from pretty much every manufacturer.
Yeah, almost everyone. Although lately I'm focusing in Claymore that I like extremely well. They're very beautiful. But again, I have space back home, big table. But in the end, the mass feel that you can create with the 15 even if you have a huge battles with the 28, you cannot recreate. I think.
No, because the regiment you only have 20 guys in it.
Yeah,
Whereas 15, you pack them in. and get 16 figures on a 40mm base.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that how you tend to go for it?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Usually the same way. You base them on 40mm.
Yeah. I based them basically. I based them. I have this when I was painting this. I based them in the old DBX bases,
Right, yeah.
but I put them together. I glue them together, or I put a square, and they create this mass feel, and it's fine. I don't really. I'm not keen on rebasing. I tell you the truth. I'm lazy on this. I hate it.
No, I mean, I think it's one of the reasons why 25mm rounds for skirmishing for modern games is so increasingly popular. Is you can take your miniatures and play a different system by buying a different movement tray.
Yeah,
but 25mm round is a lot of space for a rank and flank miniature. I mean, I've seen Eccentric Man done some Wars of the Roses stuff for something bill hooks, bows and bill hooks.
Bill. Yeah. It's a rule set there. Yeah.
And
never mind the bill hooks.
There's a lot of space between the miniatures, and it takes time to kind of readjust to that. But I understand from the not wanting to rebase anything, go that way, and use movement trays.
It's boring.
What we've been doing. So, do you want to show us some of the pictures you're collecting? Because many people here, possibly a lot of our people are here for the World War II stuff, so they've probably not seen a lot of them. And I think what you'll see is that what you won't see on our channel very often is that mass effect of so many miniatures in such a small space.
Yeah, let me show you some, and I may have from some battles to show you. Okay. So this is my latest armies. I'm Scottish. I used to, I paint them for, I want to fight the Battle of Halligan Hill. Can you see them?
Yeah, they're not Scottish. They're wearing armour and everything.
Armour.
Yeah. They should be all muddy and scraggly hair.
Yeah, with commanders also. And these are for Halligan Hill, but they can be used for the 100 Years' War early as well, but for French if you want. These are from Claymore Castings. I like the mass effect. I'm trying to portray this in all my battles and all my armies.
Yeah. So despite what you've seen in the Braveheart movie, the Scots did not go to war in tartan kilts with blue face paint and no armor.
Yeah, that's how it went, right? I saw that documentary, Braveheart.
Yeah, exactly. 100 Years' War Scots looked a lot like 100 Years' War English and 100 Years' War everybody else. Yeah,
actually, the Scottish who were the largest forces of the 100 Years' War during the later part of the 100 Years' War after the Battle of Agincourt. The French were in shock. They couldn't field armies. They were afraid of the English. So the Scottish had the bigger percentage of the soldiers in the battles of the later 100 Years' War, and actually the better quality soldiers as well. So they were very strong during the later part of the 100 Years' War, the Scots. These are Halligan Hill. Again, the Halligan Hill, where I mean, you know the battle better than me. It's English history. And Neville's Cross. The Scots were not less than 10, 12,000.
I know nothing. To let you know, I know nothing.
They don't teach English kids this history. Tell us about Neville's Cross.
The Battle of Neville's Cross was basically the French king. It was during the period that Edward III was in France, and French king asked from the Scots to attack the English in order to give a diversion and divide the English armies. And David II, the son of Robert the Bruce, mastered a huge army with all this very famous, the Earl of March, you have Douglas, you have many famous nobles that brought the retinues and attacked northern England. And obviously the longbow was the major weapon that basically annihilated the Scots, who had, their strategy was surpassed by the English at the time. The reason that the English dismounted, and the reason that the English had defensive position is that because they learned from the Scots the big losses from Robert the Bruce. So the English evolved in strategy. The English dismounted. They used their missile fires, the missile weapons, but the Scots never managed to evolve from the Chiltern formation. So if the Chiltern managed to reach you, it will destroy you. The Scots were very hard warriors, but they were very vulnerable in longbow fire at that time. So until they reached the English, they usually were, almost routed. Although in Neville's Cross, they almost won the battle, but they were outflanked by the English and longbowmen, and they were routed. And then, of course, David II was captured. So these are some Scots I have.
So it occurs to me, actually, I'm probably going to step ahead of the game, because I don't think most English could tell you what the 100 Years' War was about. So why don't you cover
that's
that as
the
well?
thing. Yeah, no, that's good.
How does the 100 Years' War start, Nick? What's it all about?
Yeah, let me share more, and I'll tell you when. Well, then, 1 second. Let me find some photographs more. Okay. So, well, the 100 Years' War basically was, between you and me, guys, and I don't want to insult anybody, it was a civil war between you and me. It was
a French Civil War.
The French Civil War, because, well, most of the English nobility at that time were French. So
yeah.
Blasphemy!
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe one of the reasons we don't teach it.
Yeah. So no, basically it was there are many reasons. Okay, obviously Edward III had more claim to the throne than the French nobles at that time because of his mother.
Yeah.
And
yes,
and obviously you had the English king having more parts of France under his control than the French king. Because the English kings had Normandy, had Gascony, and another reason was this. Also, the trade with Flanders, with the Flemish, it was very profitable for the English, and the French didn't like this. Altogether, I think, made the reason for the 100 Years' War to start. But most importantly was that basically the King of England was basically a lord of France, and he had to pay homage to the French king. So this is a bit of a difficult situation to handle, obviously.
Yeah. So it's Edward III, isn't it? Edward III is in line to inherit the king, to be king of France.
Yeah, from Isabella, his mother, Isabella of France.
Yeah.
But
his nephew gets it instead.
Yeah, when Isabella's brother Louis died, it was obviously Edward was closer to the throne than any French noble. But then the French reinvented, if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure you know better than me, the silky law, that it doesn't allow a king to come from a female. From a female line, and this was
primogeniture thing.
Yeah, and this was not obviously. It was not used by then, but they used it in order to remove Edward III from claiming the French throne.
So up until this point, the King of England was also a Duke of France, a French prince. And
he was
upon the
Duke
ascension of a new French king, the King of England would go and notionally pay homage to the French king.
Exactly.
Edward III flatly refused to do that. I said, not only is that prick my nephew, I'm supposed to be king anyway, so I'm not doing it. And so the war breaks out as these two rival factions. And it's further complicated. France then is not France today. France geographically, as a political entity is understood. But you've got a faction on the far left, which is the English from Gascony, the Spanish border, up to Normandy. Pretty much all of that is Angevin or under English control. The central part from the Pas de Calais down to Marseille is mostly controlled by the King of France. The eastern part, Strasbourg up to Flanders, is controlled by Burgundians, which is another faction within France. And it's this. So when you say this civil war, these three different parts of claimants to the French king in a war over 100 years, of which eventually this will be settled. But this is where, you know, Joan of Arc is part of this, and so forth, Jean le Pucelle, all of that kind of stuff. Is fascinating period of many different wars. We call it one, but it's many more, isn't it?
No, for the 100 Years' War, you have to divide it to three wars. It's the Edwardian War, it's the Caroline War, and the Lancastrian War. So it's three different wars, basically, from the English part, obviously. And it's as you said, it was Gascony, and all these areas were English-dominated areas. Then you have the central France, who was Armagnac, and the Burgundians, and the Armagnacs and the Burgundians were in a civil war. So basically, that was the advantage that England took, that managed to, you know, basically almost win the 100 Years' War before the French managed to condole the difference. So let me show you one also. You will like him. I'm sure you know what I'm going to show you now. So this is Edward III. Miniature from Claymore.
Look at him. So he is possibly England's greatest but largely unknown king.
I think by far the greatest king of England, by far, or medieval king, let's say.
Yeah. Not only is he a great warrior prince who asserts his claims on various titles, very, very successful, reigns over a very prosperous England, a really successful period. But he's also the guy, which gives you some idea of his importance, that all the Wars of the Roses people all trace their ancestry back to him. He's like,
exactly.
He's like the last, like, if you descended from him, you got to be legit. Because he's the last real serious top-notch king. We know about, you know, Henry V and so forth, Agincourt, Henry VI, brilliant, but actually the impact is much smaller on history than this guy, Edward III.
Yeah, obviously. And Henry V, obviously, as you know, I'm sure you know, guys, he was not a legitimate king. That's why he made this huge campaign in order to legitimize him, because the King of England should have been the son of the Black Prince, the first son of Edward III, but
he died.
Yeah, Henry IV, the father of Henry V, was a son of John of Gaunt. John of Gaunt was the third or the fourth son of Edward III. Yeah, the third son. So Henry V, although a major figure and the great king of England, was not actually, and that's how the Wars of the Roses started with the Lancastrians, because Henry V was not a legitimate king. He was a usurper. Henry IV, and then his son, obviously, great commander, great king, proved to be. But Edward III was the major, was the man, I think. But I think probably in the same level with will be Longshanks, the Hammer of the Scots. Henry, it would be a similar level of king.
Edward I.
Yeah, Edward I. Yeah.
Edward I. Yeah. Yeah. Who is in that Braveheart movie?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. The Hammer of the Scots. Because Edward I is successful because he comes back to England with a Crusader army.
Yeah.
He inherits the kingdom whilst he's on crusade. And there's some, you know, concern, is he going to come back kind of thing. But not only does he come back, he comes back with these veteran crusaders with which he then, this is the period in which England becomes Britain, right? He conquers the rest of it, or at least in part. And Edward III is really the only, you know, England's dominance of the British Isles is patchy at best, but it's strongest under Edward I, Edward III. You know, there are these signature kings that really make the difference.
And then he died of man flu. Terrible shame.
Then he died of man flu. I mean, he died of being old. Really, man.
What, Longshanks?
A great general.
Yeah. So the battles of the 100 Years, well, the early period is dominated by the longbow, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? So why is the longbow such a game changer? But why aren't everybody else using it? Why is that a war winner for us?
Well, most of the battles were dominated by the longbow, even the later battles. Only when the French managed to master gunpowder, that's where the English lost. The French managed to master gunpowder, and that's you have the Battle of Castillon when everything finished for the English, and
Endgame.
And Endgame, basically. The longbow was, you have to know that I was reading a book recently that was saying the French longbowman and even the Scottish longbowman who existed were as good as the English longbowman, but there were not as many. The English, you know the rules, what happened. They had to train every week or every weekend by law, correct?
Yeah.
So
we banned football and all this.
So obviously, the banned football, exactly. So obviously you had much more English longbowmen than you have French or Scottish. So this was one reason. Obviously, the longbowmen were very well trained, and many more. At the same, so the longbow was a weapon that basically dominated the field. It didn't kill as much as it disordered. I mean, people have to realize that the longbow was, especially in the later part of the 100 Years' War, where they improved the armor, the longbow was deadly from quite the close range, as we say. But it disordered, it created havoc, it created
from a horse is pretty deadly, though.
Yeah, the horses, because they were killing the horses. And it was then very easy for the longbowmen and the men-at-arms to just kill the fallen riders.
Yeah.
But the longbowman was the longbow. You can imagine if a unit of or an army of French, you are shot 60 or 70,000 arrows a minute. I mean, you have to understand the number of arrows against you and the impact they will have. Maybe they will not kill you, but the disorder and the havoc and the panic they're going to create, the funneling, it was enough for an army to be beaten. I read somewhere that usually in the 100 Years' War battle, the commanders knew who will win after the third or fourth volley of longbows.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they could see the state the armies were in at that point.
Exactly, yeah.
And probably much of the ammunition is being fired by that point.
Yes, I mean, so the longbow was a very dominating weapon. And also the big difference between the English armies and the French armies was that the English armies were basically much earlier professional. The French were still fighting a feudal type of battle. They're fighting for honor. The nobles were going in front, and they wanted to. They considered fighting on foot not honorable anymore, and they were all fighting mounted. The English were professional army from very beginning. From Edward III, it was bringing common man fighting. It was a shock for the French nobles when they realized that they were killed by common men. The English were very, very ahead. I think the English learned from the Scots, from the losses in Scotland.
We approached Scotland the same way, and it hadn't worked out.
Yeah, and I think in that way, and that's where the English dismounted when they lost from Robert Bruce and all these common Scottish soldiers were fighting. At that time, the English were still fighting mounted. So I think the English learned from the Scots and involved, and that was the advantage of the English. They were involving their armies. They were involved. They were changing according to the requirements. So you see, men-at-arms being no more than 40 or 50% of the army, and then full of longbows. Obviously, Henry V, the Black Prince, Edward III had a reason of doing this. Otherwise, they would have taken more men-at-arms. They were cheaper, obviously, but obviously they wouldn't take them only because they were cheaper. They had some meaning in the strategy.
Yeah, there were the tactics. Well, that's been us for an hour there. You showed the pictures you showed us. They were mainly 25mm, weren't they? They were 28.
Let me show you some. Let me show you some French and English. One battle I fought recently, so you can see a bit.
I mean, you love the sense of scale there.
Now this is French and English. It was not a historical battle. You see the Oriflame here on the right. This is the one that is not very clear. Is the Duke of Orleans. I like this is Bernard de Gosselin. I like making commanders. Everybody I paint is a character because it makes it like an RPG, you know.
Yeah,
it makes it, so I paint characters everywhere, even the nobles who are part of bases, as you can see here, Oxford or Northampton. I paint nobles. I don't paint randomly. So these are some photographs from the battles I fought. This is Henry of Grosmont here on the left. I play only characters. I paint because I like having, you know, it gives more personal feel to the armies.
Massively.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes a difference. You can see that.
Yeah, these are all most of them Claymore castings, and some of them are First Corps, another good manufacturer.
And the flags, you design them on Photoshop or whatever, you print your own, or are these from?
No, what the flags? No, the flags. It's through. I have. It's from. You can find all the flags in the internet, and all the coat of arms very easily. And I put them in PowerPoint. I print them. You know, trial and error. I find the correct size, and then I glue them. And you can even print them on transfer paper. You can do any quality you want. It's perfect. You don't need to buy flags. You can fix them very easily.
Wow.
Very nice. Very nice.
Well,
indeed.
Where can we find all of this stuff? Can you remind the viewers, sir, where we can find you on the YouTubes?
The Medieval Warrior Wargaming channel. You can find these guys if you want. If anybody's interested. I know 100 Years War is not the most popular era, but it's
still fun though.
It's fun. These are some French crossbowmen.
Done one recently, but you've had in the past you've had pictures of your miniature overlaid to the sound of it raining and the Bernard Cornwell novel being audio.
Yeah, these are the most popular ones. Yeah, that's why I do it. You know, I like this because it gives, you know, it makes it more interesting. And listening to Bernard Cornwell descriptions of battle, because it describes battles brilliantly. So I put some rain, some sound effects, and it's like a small movie, a short movie. And I take the, you know, this is I take photographs of the miniatures, and it's more fun. It's more fun than just showing the pictures.
Just for anyone that hasn't looked, within the 100 years, although it's all within the period, there's a real medley of content. So there's stuff around little pocket biographies of major nobles in the period. There's some just miniature showcases with Bernard Cornwell audiobook in the background. There's rules deep dives, particularly on Sword Point, I think is you've done, haven't you, more recently?
Yeah.
And then just super recently, you've joined in a podcast crew as well, which you called, is it Pile of Shame?
Yeah, Pile of Shame, because most of them haven't painted any miniatures they have.
Yeah. All right. We are due to be back on Tuesday with Dwayne from the Plastic Crack Gaming, the Irish one, not the Plastic Crack podcast. He does Battletech and Orcs, so it'll be nice to catch up with him. That'll be Tuesday night at 9 o'clock. I haven't spoken to him for a while, but I just check he's still okay with that.
Yeah.
But that's the plan where we are at the moment. John and I have been able to do a couple of battle reports recently. We recorded a tanks video and we recorded a kill team video where he completely stomped me, by the way. Spoilers there. I utterly crushed in that game. And we are planning, we're now in the Easter holiday period, so we're going to get SPQR recorded over the next 7 days. And you probably won't see it on the channel for maybe four weeks or something. We've got that. And then in terms of the unboxings to come, with the other half, the other 3 boxes from the massive mid-war release from Flames of War, we've got Test of Honor has sent, which I'm going to unbox at some point this week. And what was the other one? The gunfighter one from Stuart. What's it called?
Dead Man's Hands.
Their new starter set, which looks really good. Nick, it's been a real pleasure having you in here. Sorry, I have completely ignored most of the chat this evening. I'm sorry. I tried to keep up with it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and I know it's super late for you there, isn't it, Nick? So really appreciate you being on, and hopefully we can have you on again sometime. Talk about
whenever you want.
Talk about one battle in particular. You know, have a bit of a deep dive into.
Learn us up.
Would you like that?
Yeah, sure. We can talk about battles, pitch battles, and it would be very interesting, yes, to tell the strategy and everything.
Yeah, or medieval sieging, or so, you know, some particular aspect. We'll have a deep dive on.
Yeah,
I think
for sure.
Would be really nice. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.